Leading worship solo. Let's talk about it. For me at my church, I get to lead with a full band for our morning services, but every single Sunday for our third morning service, I lead solo. So I just want to share with you a few things that have helped me gain some confidence as I'm leading worship solo, and hopefully it helps you as you're considering how you would do your best as you lead by yourself. Dialing in your gear. Your gear should never be something that distracts from you and your leadership experience. It should never distract the people as you're leading them. It should be an asset to your music and the way that you lead your church congregation. So if you don't feel familiar with your gear, if you don't understand how it works, if you turn it on and you're just like, I hope it works, it's worked in the past, but you don't know how to troubleshoot it, you don't know what kind of power supply it should have, if you don't have redundancy with your power, if you don't have an extra guitar off to the side, if you're leading from a guitar just in case something happens with a string or a pickup, if you don't have your gear dialed in, you're just setting yourself up for a nervous experience leading. Take it from me. I have done all the things where I have not changed my strings for weeks at a time, broken a string during a worship set. I've had straps break. I've had kick drum pedals break. I've had things power down as I'm leading. All kinds of awkward, potentially embarrassing situations just because I didn't understand my gear or really prepare my gear for leading worship by myself. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm keeping it really simple, and I'm just using my microphone and a stand. I'm memorizing my songs, so I don't need chord charts. I have my guitar on me, and I have a kick drum right behind me with two pedals. One is controlling the kick drum, and one is hitting a tambourine, and that's it. And maybe for you that feels like too much, using your feet during a worship set. For me, it feels really comfortable. I used to use pads from a phone that I have to dial in with a volume pedal, and I would use a harmonica around my neck. And it was basically just a circus act. It got to become way too much, too fast. And so now I'm stripping it down to what feels a bit manageable, but is still intentional and works well. But I know how everything works now. I know how to tune my kick drum. I know how to work with my pedals. My tambourine, I have an extra tambourine. I have a little suitcase for all of it. I keep my pedal board for my guitar really simple now. And it just allows me to just fully lead without having to worry about transitions with my gear. So if you have any questions about your gear, figure it out before you lead solo, because the last thing you want to have happen is that you're leading a song and you're guessing whether or not that pad is going to work, that pedal is going to work, that power supply is going to die. You want to go into it with confidence. So dial in your gear. Choose singable keys. Now, I know that there is a debate among worship leaders and worship team members about what keys to sing songs in, and should you choose a key that feels best for you or that feels best for the congregation? I'm going to go on the record right now and say there is no one key that will fit your congregation. It's just impossible to please everybody. But you can find keys that feel great for you, that when you're leading them, you feel incredible with the melody. And so I'm just going to say, from my personal experience, that it is best to choose keys that feel really great for your vocal range. Because not only will you be able to sing the song in its entirety without straining or killing yourself, but you're going to be able to sing with confidence, and that is going to transfer over to your congregation as they're following you into worship. And even if they can't sing every single word with you, if it's too low or too high, they can at least see that you're passionate about that song, be led into the presence of God through your leadership. I believe that that's really important. So choose a key that is singable for you. Now, this is really important when you're leading solo, because if you're like me, I'm leading solo from my guitar with my voice and maybe a kick drum. And that is incredibly vulnerable. Not just that it's scary, but if you hit a wrong note, vocally in that kind of environment, everybody's going to hear it. So if you're straining for notes, everybody's going to know it. You're going to know it. And it's going to be uncomfortable for everybody. Same if you go too low. You don't want to be all Johnny Cash on a song when you can't really hit those notes, because it's not going to sound good, and there's no way to cover it up. There's no way to cover the blemishes in your voice when it's just you and a guitar or you and a piano. I actually don't know if there's any other environments that people would lead solo. Maybe you and a banjo or you and a harmonica. I don't know your context, but for me, it's just my voice and a guitar. If I choose keys that are really high or really low, it's just gonna be kind of nasty for everybody to listen to. So I try to find something that's comfortable. I don't have to wow everybody, just gotta find something that I can sing well and that people can sing along with me. And that's gonna be a much more enjoyable experience for you and for the congregation. So when you're leading solo, I mean, all the time you wanna pick a key that feels right for you, but especially in that solo environment where your voice is just fully on display, pick something that feels great for you vocally. Memorize your songs. I really believe that we should not be leading songs that we haven't memorized ourselves. If you're relying on a confidence monitor or a piece of paper to guide you through a song, then you don't know the song. And if you don't know the song and you're leading the song, that is just bad news for everybody. What if the confidence monitor goes out? What if your piece of paper blows away from the AC, or you're outside and you can't see the paper because of the sun? There's just way too many variables when you don't know the song. So you've got to memorize your songs. And this is something that I've really been trying to put into practice as of lately. I'll spend about an hour every week trying just to memorize the words to the songs, because for me, that's the hardest thing to do. But also memorizing the chords, and not only the lyrics and the chords, but the song structure. And for me, I'm trying to memorize where drums come in, where guitars come in, where things go out, when things build, when things drop, all of it. And that really helps when you're leading worship solo, because you can add dynamics to the songs that you're leading. But man, if you're leading solo, you gotta know your songs, because it's so awkward. It is so awkward to move your papers, to shuffle around, to squint at the confidence monitor. I do that all the time. I'm really trying to stop that. But when you don't know your songs, and when you feel uncomfortable about the next word or the next note that's coming up, man, it's just a really uncomfortable experience. Just spend the extra time during the week to memorize your songs. You can make the time for it. I know it's hard. We all got busy schedules, but memorize your songs. I can't say it enough. Practice, practice, practice. Practice doesn't make perfect, but practice makes comfortable to some degree, and that's where we want to be. We want to be comfortable when we're leading. We don't want people to be curious if we're going to hit that note or know that part. Side note, if you do memorize your songs, it's going to help a ton when you're leading a band during rehearsal, because when people have questions, you'll know exactly how to answer them, and that eliminates friction. That's a big part of leading worship solo. You just want to eliminate as many variables as possible. So memorize your songs so you're not having to look at a chord chart, having to look at lyrics, having to look at the monitor. Just lead from your heart, knowing that you know all the words. Use pads. Pads for me are one of those instruments that instantly elevate the quality of the music that I'm leading. When I'm leading solo, I just kind of need as much help as I could possibly get, and I want to keep a simple setup, but pads can be such a great addition to your setup, especially if you're leading a full worship set by yourself in one key. If I'm leading the full set in the key of A, man, I can just roll in that pad in the key of A, let it play out the whole time that I'm leading, and just fade out at the very end. And it kind of acts as a bit of a glue for the music. I've found that it helps with dead spots or really quiet moments just to feel like there's still something present. And the most helpful thing for me with pads is that they really do provide some kind of tonal guide for me vocally. And I find that when I have pads in the mix in my ears, in my in-ears, or in my monitor, that it really helps me stay on pitch with my vocals. And that's the thing I really need help with the most, is just staying on pitch with my melodies and the things I'm singing with the church. So if you're playing guitar, pads could be a great way to just balance out your worship set. If you're playing from a piano, which I'm just imagining that if you're watching this and you're leading worship by yourself, you're probably playing guitar or piano. If you're playing piano, though, you might be able to actually have in your piano some pads, on the keyboard itself, or maybe you're playing through main stage or using Sunday Sounds or something like that. You can roll in some pads. That's just so helpful. And I find that people do like them if they're not obnoxious. And by obnoxious, I mean that you're having to use volume pedals and click buttons and it's distracting from the moment, which is something that I've done in the past and trying to work through right now. But if they're not obnoxious, if they're seamless, if they're elegant, they can be really helpful for the worship experience. This is definitely like an added thing for your worship environment. So if you're not used to using pads, or you feel like you don't have the bandwidth mentally to handle using pads, you don't need to do it. But if you're looking to kind of, bring that extra element into the musical part of your worship sets, pads can be great, and I found them to be really helpful. So consider using pads. All right, so those are my 4 tips for leading worship solo. I hope those are helpful for you like they've been for me. And I'm praying for you as you lead your worship sets that you feel confident, that you're eliminating distractions, that you're adding some musical excellence to whatever environment you're leading in. And I'm praying that your people really engage with you, and more importantly, with the Lord through your worship services. So go out, be bold, be courageous, have some fun, pick some keys that you feel great about, dial in your gear, memorize your songs, maybe throw in a pad or two. And I hope that your Sunday is a blast as you're leading worship solo. Enjoy. God bless. See you in the next video.